So I started, as I said, 15, building my first business. So that was really like IT consultancy, helping people learn how to use the computers. Actually, I tapped into to a basically stay-at-home mothers who basically wanted to get into having a computer, IT, all that sort of stuff. So I used to go up, spend weekends with them, teach them how to use everything. I love running that little business, and then I worked for a software sales company for a few years. Basically, did my university years in inverted commas, and then went and realized I just needed to do something myself. So I went back to building computers again, and I actually started shipping like little microcomputers around the world. Before I founded a company called Fluidata, which was a communications business, and the idea was basically when broadband was being rolled out across the country, and we basically started delivering high speed internet access to businesses. So we built. I built from my bedroom there on credit cards. So I had like 40 grand on credit cards at one point, no income. And that was a squeaky bum time as well. But we built that up. I built it to 150 people. We had like 30 million in revenue. We had offices across the UK. We operated out of 18 data centers. O2 was our biggest customer. So we built, I don't know if you're familiar with O2 Wi-Fi. It was like free Wi-Fi available in McDonald's and other places. So we helped build that core infrastructure there and backhaul it across across these data centers. And then I exited that really successfully. And the company that bought it, we merged with a mobile business they had bought. I sort of became chairman and then exited when the business was then flipped again into private equity. That business now is doing, I think, $250 million a year. So it's become a Goliath in the space. It's got a lot more debt in it than when I ran it, but it's doing really well. And what was really interesting is actually I became really ill when I sold my business. It's sort of like, when you take your foot off the throttle, and this is why lots of men in their 60s die early, because we sort of take our foot off the throttle and we don't really have anything to replace it with. And I got something called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, which was shingles of the nervous system. So I lost my hearing, couldn't stand, lost the ability, basically you lose your ability to balance. And I sort of work on the basis my stress level had dropped to such an extent that I basically became in this mess. So I decided that I would just, if you've ever, I'm very cultured. So like, there's a film called Yes Man, I think, with Jim Carrey, where you just say yes to everything. So I started doing that, and I ended up very quickly, building the largest children's nursery in the country. We had over 350 children. Obviously launched it just before COVID, because that was obviously good timing. Obviously class. So I founded and got involved in a sustainable clothing business. So building, making sort of really cool clothing based out, made out of bamboo. I got involved in a gut health business. So with my neighbor, he founded a business which is all around taking people on their gut health and microbiome journey.
Microbiomes, yeah.
So that's called Gutology. That's you probably, if you've seen any of my current stuff going on in your socials, that you'll see Gutology everywhere. But lots of people have their toothpaste which doesn't have fluoride in it, so it's like a toothpaste with hydroxyapatite. So it's really good for your microbiome. And we're now about to launch sort of deodorant and other things. But it's really interesting. My daughter was dairy intolerant when she was born. And actually you take someone through that gut cycle, and now she can have dairy with no problem. So I'm a great believer that there are lots of ways of solving problems, and the normal traditional methods. So Gutology, our sort of strapline at one point was life without prescription, and that concept of not having to take pills all the time and actually just solving the underlying issue was sort of the main driving force for that business. But the business I was really, or the industry I was most fascinated by, was this concept of smart grids. So when I was operating the telecoms business, and we operated out these data centers, what was fascinating was that these data centers consume like megawatts of energy, huge amounts of energy. And this is way before AI and anyone was, I mean, we were involved when Spotify, came to the UK for the first time and started building data centers. But the national grid used to pay data centers to be offline and run on diesel generators regularly, like for days and weeks, because they just didn't have enough power in the grid. So they would pay a premium and say, right, run on your diesel generators for 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever it is, while we deal with the balanced flow in energy. And I just thought, you imagine that across homes, if you're familiar with commercial building, obviously you've got BMS, you've got a building management system in those buildings, but you're lacking any kind of brain or intelligence or operating system in a home to really understand energy. And so 5 years ago, we founded Tuke. Tuke came from Tewkesbury, because I'm not a million miles from Tuke. From Tewkesbury, sorry, is where my wife came from. And the idea for Tuke was that we would build a smart home platform that you could retrofit into any house. And basically, it's centered around an intelligent light switch. It's one of the most touch points in the home. It's a light switch can be touched 16 to sort of 30 times a day, and it's one of those devices that's an amazing view of the room and the inhabitants. But what we do is we become part of the built environment. So we basically replace your existing lighting within the house. We make any light we're connected to smart, and then that then talks to any other light switch across the house. So if you guys are familiar with Control 4 Lutron style systems, that's what we're delivering. But you don't have to have racks, you don't have to have rewiring, you don't have to do anything. You just use your existing wiring, existing lighting, but use our switches. And then in the background, our switches are learning your behavior. So we capture 30,000 pieces of data a second off each light switch. And we start to understand, like, how many people are in the room, are the windows open, all of this information that then we can then use to go, like, if we can now turn the lights off, we can talk to that smart plug behind the washing machine and turn it off. We can talk to that car charger. We can talk to your central heating system, and you can start to optimize the home. And what we found is, if you couple this with a time of use tariff, so we partner with Octopus Energy, you can actually save about 30% of your energy bill just by changing the time when things run and are used in a more optimum way. We talk about, like, the whole fact you guys are all familiar with recycling. We've grown up with it, but my kids really understand it because they're like, it's like thrown down their throat every day. But optimizing energy usage is something that is so easy to do. It's like just changing the time when my heating comes on and off. I was able, I mean, during the Ukraine war, my energy bill at home went to £1,200 a month in electricity bills. I was able to halve that just by using this tech, changing my tariff, and just adapting a few key things. And now, like, my wife or I go and put the washing machine on. We just and the other day it came up on my screen and it just said, wait 8 minutes and you'll save money. So I literally just click pause and then click play again, and that little saving all the time. Yeah, sorry, lots of stuff to
yeah.
Amazing.
It's fascinating. I think what's interesting about this, and forgive me if I'm slightly misunderstanding the product, but a lot of these smart home systems, the sort of going consensus on the market is that, well, me, I'm going to spend 15 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand. I'm going to spend 10 grand fitting this stuff into my house. And then I don't even know if it's going to work. And I'm hoping that the guy who sold me is going to work really well, blah, blah, blah. But what you're saying with this is that you can kind of, like, very inintrusively change your switches for a low cost to then create almost nodes within the house that learn behavior and learn what is the best way to save energy, which you could just do through smart plugs and stuff, or it could advise and go, do you know what it is worth you spending on? You should get a new boiler, or you should get a new radiator, or you should get a different type of lighting, or you should get this. And it's kind of incrementally investing into efficiency as opposed to taking a 20, 30 grand bet, which I think is very disruptive for the home tech sector, which has pretty much always just been a huge capital cost that deters most people from even thinking about it. Fascinating product.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and I think as a developer, you're thinking of that investment in terms of, does it add value to my proposition, and will people buy the property? The one I did next door to the castle, we put Control 4 in, and literally the guy rocked up, and it was a £3 million home, and he literally rocked up and went, "It's got Control 4 in, I'll have it." And he was just a massive Control 4 nut. He took it, it was a good gamble on our part. But the majority of people, and the people we've spoken to, it's hard to configure. If it breaks, I've got to get out a specialist engineer, and there's no return on investment apart from it making my life easier. I love the fact that I can press a button and go, like, the whole house just turns off, or, when I'm away on holiday, it can pretend I'm at home and turn the lights on and off, or the cleaner can come in and just, turn it on and not have to be, get confused by it. I mean, we left our kids at home with our in-laws, and we came home and they were sitting in the dark because they turned off the lighting with the Control 4 system, and they didn't know how to turn it on again. So they sat for 4 hours in the dark because they're like, it's too complicated. So I wanted to make something that was just super easy. If you think of it, we're more like Sonos for the home automation system. So we're like, you buy one speaker and then you buy 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever, and you build that system up. And obviously until they f it up with the software, you sort of get involved in it and you love it. But that for us was sort of, a great turning point. The energy bit, weirdly, when you start saving people energy, there's actually a scientific thing on this, that actually people start using more energy. So weirdly, you do get a saving and then it goes up again. But it's one of those things, if you know your house is optimum and you don't then have to think about it, you stop using it. And then the final thing is configuring and using it. Like, I've set this one up, so I've got it just there on the wall, retrofitted. So I've still got my heat miser sitting next to it. The plan is now to take the heat miser thermostat away and just run it off the hardware. But we've built the hardware so that we run a software update on it every week. So we're just launching new features, capabilities. So a few months ago, we launched radar. So all the devices have like 9 sensors in them. So I've set it up so that now when I walk in the room between this time of the day, it turns these lights on. If it's like at 5 a.m. because I need a pee because I'm getting old, I've woken up during the night, it just turns one little lamp on, and then I go back to bed and it just turns it off automatically again. So it's that sort of stuff. Someone said to me, does it pass the wife test? Will the wife put up with it? And obviously I'm being very sexist here, but it's the partner who basically doesn't give a shit and just wants to get on with life and do everything as normal. And that's where, we're really sort of pushing on an open door. It's like, you've got all the guys who are super geeky about putting tech in their home, and then you've got the people who just are completely anti it. And what we're trying to do is build something that anyone can use, 3-year-old, 95-year-old, no instructions. No one has to be taught how to use a light switch. So that tech has to just be brilliant. And that's what we spent 5 years developing.
This is all run off the Wi-Fi network, is it then? So there's no wiring at all. You can speak to your washing machine, or you can just put a plug one end and a Wi-Fi and just put bridges in, or
Wi-Fi, and then we've got technology called Thread built into it as well. So Thread's going to be the new Wi-Fi. So Thread will be something you guys will talk about in the next 5 to 10 years. And there's another technology called Matter. So those two things are going to make the Internet of Things. When I was building my telecoms business, they were basically talking about the trillion of devices that are going to hit our homes over the coming sort of 20 years. And that's what we're sort of now tapping into, is this concept that, already I think, I've got 9 apps on my phone just to control my house. And the thing about Thread and Matter is it's basically like USB. And do you remember when USB came to your PC? It was like you could just plug stuff in and it just all worked and you didn't have all these different ports. It's the same for IoT. So IKEA have just launched a load of devices with Matter in it. I think like Bosch is starting to ship washing machines and dishwashers with Matter in it. The beauty about Matter is once the device is in your house and turned on, it finds other Matter devices and they start talking to each other and they configure each other. So you don't get involved. You don't have to install an app. You don't have to get it set up. The idea is it just starts working with your house in an intelligent way.